Maya was a young woman who lived in a small city filled with tall buildings, busy streets, and people who always seemed to be rushing somewhere. She worked long hours as a waitress in a downtown diner, a place that never seemed to close. The diner had bright red booths, shiny floors, and the smell of coffee always hanging in the air. For most customers, Maya was just another face who carried plates and refilled cups. But behind her smile, she carried dreams much larger than her apron could hold. She had been fascinated with computers since she was a child. Her parents could not afford much, but one summer she found an old second-hand laptop at a garage sale. It barely worked, but she played with it until she figured out how to type commands, open files, and even fix the bugs that kept shutting it down. That was the beginning of her love for coding. Now, years later, after her shifts at the diner, she took night classes in computer science at the community college. She wanted to prove that she could do something more than serve coffee, though few people believed in her. Every evening, she wore the same uniform, a crisp white shirt, a black skirt, and a red apron with a name tag that read Maya. She served families, couples, late-night workers, and sometimes lonely people who just wanted someone to talk to. Most nights were routine cleaning tables, writing down orders, smiling even when her feet ached. But one night, something unusual happened. It was past 10 o'clock, the diner half empty, when a man walked in carrying a laptop and holding the hand of a little girl. The man looked tired, like he had been working all day without rest. He wore a simple gray hoodie and jeans, and his eyes carried both sharp focus and deep exhaustion. The little girl, no more than 7 years old, clutched a stuffed bear and rubbed her eyes sleepily. Maya walked over with her usual cheerful voice. "Good evening, welcome in. Booth or counter?" The man glanced around, then chose a booth near the window. He placed his laptop on the table, set the girl beside him, and opened the screen as if the world outside no longer existed. Maya poured them water and offered a smile to the little girl, who gave a shy smile back before curling up with her bear. "Can I get you something to eat?" Maya asked gently. "Coffee, black. And maybe some fries for her if that's okay," the man said, already typing furiously on his keyboard. Maya nodded and placed the order, but as she returned with the coffee, she noticed something. The man kept sighing, frowning, and pressing backspace again and again. His shoulders were tense, his fingers restless. The screen displayed lines of code she could tell from the structure of the text. Most customers came to the diner to relax or eat, not to wrestle with code at midnight. She set down the coffee. "Looks like a rough night," she said lightly. The man gave a small chuckle, though it sounded tired. "That's one way to put it." Her eyes lingered on the screen. She didn't want to intrude, but curiosity tugged at her. "You're working on code?" she asked. The man finally looked up, surprised that a waitress noticed. "Yeah. Some script isn't working the way it should. Been at it for hours." Maya hesitated. Customers usually expected her to just smile and leave. But she couldn't stop herself. "I study computer science at night. Do you mind if I look?" He raised an eyebrow, clearly not expecting that answer. But something in her confident tone made him turn the laptop slightly so she could see. Maya leaned closer, scanning the lines of code. Her eyes moved quickly, picking out the structure. Within seconds, she spotted a small mistake, a misplaced bracket. She pointed at the screen. "Right there. That's breaking the loop." The man blinked. He corrected the line, ran the program again, and to his shock, it worked. He leaned back, staring at her. "How did you see that so fast?" Maya shrugged with a modest smile. "I've been practicing a lot. Sometimes fresh eyes help." For the first time, he gave her a genuine smile. "You're not just a waitress, are you?" Maya laughed softly. "Not if I can help it. This is just how I pay for school." The little girl stirred, opening her eyes halfway. "Daddy, is it fixed?" she asked sleepily. "Yeah, sweetheart," the man said warmly, patting her head. "Thanks to our new friend here." Maya felt her heart warm at the word friend. She excused herself to tend to another table, but the moment stuck in her mind. She had helped a stranger, not just by serving food, but by using a skill she loved. Over the next week, the man returned to the diner again and again. His daughter would sit quietly with a coloring book or fall asleep while he worked. Each time, Maya noticed him struggling with different parts of his code. And each time, she found herself drawn over, pointing out small errors, suggesting cleaner ways to write the functions, or asking curious questions that made him rethink his approach. The man began to look forward to her shifts. He even learned her schedule and timed his visits. Their conversations grew longer. He told her his name was Ethan, and his daughter was Lily. Maya shared that she lived in a tiny apartment, juggled work and school, and wanted one day to build apps that helped people. Ethan listened carefully, never mocking, never dismissing her dreams. Though Maya didn't know it yet, Ethan wasn't just another tired father trying to fix his code. He was a single dad with far more on his shoulders than she realized. But for now, he was simply a man grateful for the unexpected help of a waitress who carried more knowledge than anyone gave her credit for. That night when she walked home under the streetlights, Maya thought about Ethan's words. "You're not just a waitress, are you?" She repeated it in her mind, almost like a promise to herself. She knew her life could be bigger than the diner, but she didn't know how soon everything would begin to change. The diner became a familiar stop for Ethan in the days that followed. At first, Maya thought it was just coincidence that he kept showing up during her shifts, but soon she realized it was deliberate. He would always walk in carrying his laptop and holding his daughter's hand. Lily grew more comfortable each time, greeting Maya with a shy wave before settling into the booth with her stuffed bear. Ethan always ordered coffee, sometimes a sandwich, and then he would dive into his work. But the difference now was that he didn't work alone. Maya's quiet presence had become part of his routine. She didn't hover, but whenever she passed by and noticed the furrow in his brow or the quick tapping of his fingers, she paused just long enough for him to sigh and tilt his laptop in her direction. Without fail, Maya would glance at the screen, spot the problem, and suggest a solution. It was unusual, almost surreal. Ethan was a man who usually kept his world guarded, but with Maya, it felt natural to open the door a little. Each small fix she gave saved him hours of frustration. Soon, their casual exchanges grew into longer conversations. One night, while she refilled his coffee, Maya asked, "So what exactly are you building? You've been working on it non-stop." Ethan hesitated. He was used to keeping his project quiet, but something about Maya's honest curiosity made him trust her. "It's a platform," he said finally. "A kind of system that helps businesses run faster with less cost. I've been trying to design a new algorithm, but it's not easy." Maya's eyes lit up. "That sounds amazing. Like automation, but smarter." He gave a small nod. "Exactly. Smarter, more adaptable." Maya leaned in, excitement spilling out of her. "I've read about similar systems, but they always get stuck on efficiency. If you can make it smoother, it could change things for so many people." Ethan blinked, caught off guard. Most people barely understood when he tried to explain. But here was Maya, a waitress balancing trays, talking like someone who had sat in his board meetings. He found himself smiling. "You know, you might understand this better than some of my team." Maya laughed softly. "Well, I'm still learning. But maybe one day I'll be working on projects like this." Their talk drifted from code to personal lives. Ethan shared little pieces of his world: the late nights, the endless meetings, and the challenge of raising Lily alone. He spoke about his wife's passing in a gentle, careful way, and though the pain still lingered in his voice, Maya didn't press. She simply listened, offering quiet respect. Maya, in turn, told him about her own journey. She explained how she saved every tip, how she studied until sunrise, and how most people dismissed her dreams because of where she worked. "Customers think waitressing is all I'll ever do," she said one night. "Sometimes even classmates look at me like I don't belong in tech." Ethan's expression grew serious. "Don't ever let anyone tell you what you can't do. I've seen how sharp you are. You belong anywhere you decide." Those words stayed with her. She carried them through her long shifts and her late-night study sessions. One particularly stormy evening, Ethan arrived looking more stressed than usual. His hair was messy, his laptop bag half unzipped, and he kept rubbing his temple. Maya approached with a soft smile. "Rough day." "You could say that," he muttered. He slid into the booth, opened his laptop, and groaned. "I have a launch deadline next week. There's a bug I can't get rid of. If I don't fix it, the whole demo will collapse." Maya glanced at the screen. The code was long, complicated, and clearly important. She hesitated, not wanting to overstep, but Ethan pushed the laptop toward her. "Please," he said quietly. "Take a look." Her heart raced. This was more than a small error. This was the kind of task professionals struggled with. But she steadied herself, breathing slowly as she read line after line. She remembered lessons from her classes, patterns from past exercises, and even some tricks she had taught herself at home. After several minutes, she spotted it, a hidden conflict in the logic that caused the program to crash. She explained it carefully, then typed a few changes, checking each one with precision. Finally, she ran the program. The code executed smoothly, the system working exactly as it was meant to. Ethan's jaw dropped. He leaned back, staring at the screen, then at Maya. "You just saved me. Do you have any idea what this means?" Maya smiled nervously. "That it works now." He laughed, a sound full of relief. "It means the launch is back on track. You don't know how close I was to pulling my hair out." Lily, half asleep beside him, opened her eyes and clapped softly. "Yay, Daddy's happy," she whispered. Ethan reached across the table, his voice warm with sincerity. "Maya, you're incredible. I don't know why you're here serving coffee when you should be in a lab, or an office, or anywhere but here." Her cheeks warmed, and she looked away shyly. "Because opportunities don't come easy. I'm still paying for classes, and the diner keeps the lights on." Ethan studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable, but filled with thought. From then on, their collaboration grew deeper. It wasn't just about small fixes anymore. Ethan began asking for her opinion, brainstorming ideas with her, and even showing her drafts of his plans. Maya was surprised at how easily her mind clicked with his. She suggested approaches that simplified his work, and sometimes she challenged his methods, pushing him to think differently. Other staff at the diner started to notice. A cook teased her one evening, saying, "Careful, Maya. That guy's going to hire you and steal you from us." She laughed it off, but part of her wondered, was that really so impossible? At the same time, Maya felt torn. She enjoyed helping Ethan, but she worried she was crossing some invisible line. She was just a waitress, he was a man clearly working on something important. What if she was getting in too deep? But every time she thought about stepping back, she remembered the way Ethan looked at her, like her words mattered, like her ideas had weight. That was something she rarely experienced outside of her classroom. One night, as the diner grew quiet and the neon sign flickered against the window, Ethan looked at her seriously. "Maya, I need to tell you something. But maybe not tonight." She tilted her head curiously. "Something important?" "Very," he said softly. Then he smiled, as though tucking the thought away for another time. Maya didn't press. She simply nodded, though her heart beat faster with curiosity. She didn't know that Ethan was holding back a truth about who he really was. For now, it was enough that she had become part of something bigger than herself. Each night she returned home exhausted but full of energy, replaying their conversations in her mind. Somewhere deep inside, she sensed that her life was shifting, like a train changing tracks toward a new destination. The rain had stopped falling, and the city streets glistened under the glow of streetlights when Ethan walked into the diner again. Maya had been wiping down tables after the evening rush, but she noticed the look on his face right away. It wasn't the usual tired determination he carried with him. This time, his eyes seemed heavy, as if he was carrying a secret too large to hide. He slid into the booth, Lily following behind him with her stuffed bear. The little girl smiled sleepily at Maya, who returned the smile before placing 2 glasses of water on the table. She wanted to ask Ethan what was wrong, but his silence told her that he would speak when ready. For several minutes, he worked on his laptop without saying much. Maya poured him coffee and walked back toward the counter, but her thoughts kept circling. Something about him felt different tonight. Finally, Ethan closed the laptop with a soft thud, as though making a decision. "Maya," he said quietly. She turned, surprised by the serious tone in his voice. "Yes. There's something I need to tell you. You've helped me more than you realize, and I can't keep pretending." Her heart quickened. She pulled up a chair, sensing that this was not an ordinary conversation. "What is it?" Ethan looked at his daughter, who was busy drawing shapes on a napkin with a pen. Then he looked back at Maya. "I'm not just some man trying to build a small project. The truth is, I own one of the biggest tech companies in the country." For a moment, Maya blinked, certain she had misheard. "You own a company?" He nodded slowly. "A very large one. $1 billion large." He exhaled, as if the confession lifted a weight. "I started it years ago with a small team, built it from nothing. It grew fast, faster than I ever imagined. But I kept a low profile because after my wife passed, I wanted Lily to have a normal childhood. I wanted her to be safe, away from cameras and attention. That's why I come here quietly. Why I work here instead of in some shiny office." Maya's mouth went dry. She tried to process the words. She had known he was intelligent, ambitious, but a billionaire? That was beyond anything she imagined. Ethan leaned forward, his eyes earnest. "I didn't mean to keep it from you. But I needed someone I could trust, not someone who wanted me for what I own, but someone who saw me as just a man, as a father. You've been that person." Maya sat back, stunned. She had served countless customers at the diner, each with their own stories. But never in her wildest dreams did she imagine that the man she was helping with code was a billionaire. Her voice came out softer than she expected. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you deserve to know," he said firmly. "And because your help hasn't been small, Maya. You've caught things even my top engineers have missed. You've improved my work, made it sharper. You've saved me when I was on the edge of failure. I can't keep pretending you're just a helpful waitress. You're more than that." Maya's heart pounded. A mix of pride and fear washed over her. She thought of her tiny apartment, her sleepless nights, her classmates who doubted her. And now this man, this billionaire, was looking at her as if she was the one holding power. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say nothing for now," Ethan replied gently. "Just know that I value you, more than I've ever valued anyone outside my company." The rest of the night felt different. Every time Ethan spoke, Maya heard his words echo against the truth she now knew. He wasn't just Ethan, the single dad in a hoodie. He was Ethan, the visionary behind a company she had probably read about in news headlines. And yet, despite the wealth and the power, he sat here with his daughter, drinking diner coffee, relying on her help. In the following days, Ethan began opening up more. He brought not just small bugs to fix, but whole sections of his project for her to look at. Maya was nervous at first, but once she focused on the code, her fear melted away. Logic was logic, whether it belonged to a billionaire or a student. And she was good at it. One evening, he showed her a part of the system that his team had been struggling with for months. "We can't seem to make this feature efficient enough," he admitted. "The board thinks we should cut it." Maya studied the code, biting her lip in concentration. "What if you approach it differently?" she suggested. She explained a method she had learned recently in class, combining it with an idea she had developed herself. Ethan's eyes widened as he realized her approach could actually work. He laughed in disbelief. "Do you have any idea what you've just done? This could change everything." Maya shrugged, blushing. "I just thought it made sense." Word by word, idea by idea, Ethan began to see her not as a helper, but as a partner. He found himself looking forward not just to her solutions, but to her perspective. She didn't think like his executives or his engineers. She thought like someone who had fought her way through obstacles, who looked at problems with fresh determination. But not everyone was as open-minded. One night, Ethan mentioned casually, "I told a couple of board members about you." Maya froze. "What did they say?" He hesitated, then gave a small sigh. "They laughed. They think I'm wasting time letting a waitress touch our code. They don't see what I see." Maya's chest tightened. She knew people judged her based on her job, but it hurt to hear it from people she hadn't even met. "Maybe they're right," she murmured. "Maybe I don't belong in that world." Ethan's voice grew firm. "Don't say that. You belong more than they ever will. They only know numbers and power. You know persistence. You know how to see problems differently. That's more valuable than any title." Her eyes met his, and in that moment she believed him. The diner became less of a workplace and more of a bridge between two worlds. Every night, as Maya wiped tables and poured coffee, she knew her life was slowly changing. Customers still saw her as a waitress, but Ethan saw her as something else, someone capable of standing beside him in rooms filled with power and money. One quiet night, after Lily had fallen asleep in the booth and the diner was nearly empty, Ethan looked at Maya again with that same serious expression he had worn the night he revealed his secret. "Maya," he said softly. "There's more ahead. And it's not going to be easy. But I want you there with me." She didn't fully understand what he meant yet, but she felt the weight of his words. Something bigger was coming, something that would test not only her skills but her courage. And though fear tugged at her, a stronger feeling pushed forward: hope. For the first time, Maya saw a door opening into the world she had only dreamed of. And this time, she wasn't going to step back. The morning sun lit up the city skyline as Ethan prepared for one of the most important meetings of his year. His company was about to present a new system to a group of powerful investors. The success of this launch could push the company to even greater heights, but failure would bring doubt, risk, and pressure from every direction. Maya knew about the meeting because Ethan had shared the details with her the night before. "This demo will make or break the project," he had said, rubbing his temple. "And the board, they're not exactly on my side about you." Maya had stayed quiet, though her heart felt heavy. She wanted to help him more than anything, but she also feared stepping into a room filled with people who already doubted her. She was just a waitress, after all, or at least that was how the world saw her. But Ethan didn't see her that way. "I want you there," he had said firmly. "You've been with me through the hardest part. If something goes wrong, you're the one I trust." The next day, Maya dressed carefully. She didn't own business suits or fancy dresses, so she wore the nicest blouse she had, paired with simple black pants. She tied her hair neatly and stood in front of the mirror, reminding herself to be calm. This wasn't about appearance. This was about her knowledge, her mind, her skills. When she arrived at the company's headquarters, her breath caught. The tall glass building shimmered like a tower in the sky. Employees in sleek clothes moved quickly through the lobby, holding tablets and phones, speaking in sharp voices. Maya felt small for a moment, but she walked in with her head held high. Ethan greeted her at the entrance with Lily by his side. "You look perfect," he said warmly, noticing her nervousness. "Just remember, you don't need to prove yourself to them. You already proved yourself to me." Maya smiled faintly, grateful for his words, but deep down she knew the meeting would be different. This was no late-night diner shift. This was the world of power, money, and high expectations. Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere was tense. Long polished tables, screens on the walls, and sharp-eyed board members seated in leather chairs. Most of them were older men in tailored suits, their expressions skeptical as soon as they noticed Maya entering with Ethan. One of them whispered something to another, and a few smirked. Maya felt the heat rise in her cheeks, but she forced herself to sit quietly beside Ethan. The presentation began smoothly. Ethan spoke with confidence, explaining the vision, the potential, and the future of the new system. Investors listened carefully, nodding at times, frowning at others. Everything seemed steady until the demo reached the critical point. The program froze. The screen turned blank for a moment, then filled with error messages. The room went silent. A few board members exchanged sharp looks, and one cleared his throat impatiently. Ethan tried to stay calm. "Just a small glitch," he muttered, clicking furiously, but nothing worked. The system refused to respond. Maya's heart pounded. She knew that if this failure continued, the entire presentation would collapse. Investors would lose trust, the board would attack Ethan, and the project might be cut entirely. She leaned closer and whispered, "Let me see." Ethan hesitated for a split second, but then he slid the laptop toward her. He trusted her. The board members noticed and raised their eyebrows. One of them scoffed. "What is she doing?" Another murmured loudly, enough for Maya to hear. "This is not the time for experiments." Ignoring the comments, Maya focused on the code. Her fingers moved quickly, scanning through the lines. She recognized the pattern of the crash. It was something they had discussed before, a conflict that only appeared under heavy data load. She took a deep breath, typed in a fix, and reran the program. For a moment, the room held its breath. Then, like magic, the system came back to life. The screen filled with smooth graphs, real-time responses, and the full potential of Ethan's platform. Gasps echoed around the table. Investors leaned forward, eyes wide. Even the board members who had doubted her stared in disbelief. Maya sat back quietly, letting the results speak for themselves. Ethan smiled with pride and continued the presentation as if nothing had gone wrong. But the energy in the room had shifted completely. When the demo ended, the investors clapped. "This is brilliant," one of them said. "You've solved the efficiency problem that others couldn't." Another added, "This could change the entire industry." The board members, though still stiff, were forced to acknowledge what had just happened. One of them cleared his throat. "Impressive work, Ethan. Though I must admit, I didn't expect your assistant to handle something so complex." Ethan's voice grew firm. "She's not just an assistant. Maya is the reason we succeeded today. She's been behind many of the fixes that kept this project alive. You should remember that." Maya felt her chest tighten with emotion. For so long, people had dismissed her, overlooked her, or judged her by her job at the diner. But here, in this powerful room, she had proven herself. Not with words, not with titles, but with skill. After the meeting, As the investors left buzzing with excitement, Ethan turned to her. "You saved me again," he said with a grin. Maya shook her head. "No. You trusted me. That's what made the difference." But the truth was clear: she had stepped into a world that had never been open to her before, and she had left her mark. Outside the building, Lily hugged her tightly. "You're amazing," the little girl said with innocent joy. Maya laughed softly, her heart swelling. For years she had dreamed of moments like this, of being recognized for her knowledge. And now, standing beside Ethan and Lily, she felt like the impossible was finally possible. Yet she also knew this was only the beginning. The board's doubts had not disappeared completely. They had seen her brilliance, yes, but acceptance would not come easily. Some still saw her as a waitress who got lucky. But Maya was no longer afraid. She had faced their judgment, walked into their world, and shown her worth. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was ready. That night, when she returned to her small apartment, she looked at her reflection in the mirror. For the first time, she didn't just see a waitress. She saw a woman on the edge of transformation, standing between two worlds, one she had struggled through, and one she was about to claim. And deep inside, she knew, the unexpected was only beginning. The days following the investor meeting felt like a whirlwind for Maya. She returned to her usual shifts at the diner, pouring coffee and wiping tables, but her mind was elsewhere. Every clink of a cup reminded her of the polished glasses in the boardroom. Every squeak of the diner's door reminded her of the sliding glass doors at Ethan's company. It felt as though she had one foot in two different worlds, and she wasn't sure where she truly belonged. Customers still saw her as the cheerful waitress with a ready smile. None of them knew that just a few nights before, she had saved a billionaire's company in front of some of the most powerful people in the city. The contrast almost felt like a secret life. She would take orders for pancakes in the morning, and then at night she would open her notebook and write down coding ideas inspired by her work with Ethan. One evening, Ethan visited the diner again, not with his laptop this time, but simply with Lily. The little girl ran to Maya as soon as she saw her, hugging her waist as though she were family. Maya knelt and hugged her back, her heart softening. Ethan waited until Maya's shift slowed before he spoke. "You don't belong here anymore," he said gently, glancing around the diner. "I mean that with respect. You've outgrown this place." Maya tilted her head, unsure how to respond. "It's honest work. It pays the bills." Ethan leaned forward. "Yes, but you have talent that deserves a bigger stage. I want you to work for me. Officially. No more fixing things in the shadows. You'll have a position, a salary, the resources to grow. I'll make sure you have the support to finish your studies too." Her breath caught. The offer was bigger than anything she had ever dreamed of. A steady income, a chance to code for real projects, a door opening into the world she had always wanted to enter. But fear whispered in her mind. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she failed? As if reading her thoughts, Ethan added softly, "You don't have to decide tonight. Just know this: I believe in you. And my daughter adores you. That should tell you something." Maya glanced at Lily, who smiled up at her with innocent trust. The little girl didn't care about titles, money, or degrees. She cared about kindness, patience, and the way Maya always treated her like she mattered. That smile gave Maya courage. That night, as she walked home under the city lights, Maya thought about her journey. The long shifts, the tired feet, the endless nights of study. She thought about the customers who looked down on her, the classmates who doubted her, and the quiet moments when she almost gave up. And then she thought about Ethan, the billionaire who chose to sit in a small diner, who trusted her when no one else would, and who opened a door she never thought she could reach. The next morning, Maya walked into the diner, tied on her apron, and began her shift as usual. But something inside her had changed. When her manager asked her to cover another double shift, she smiled politely and said, "This will be my last week here." Her manager raised an eyebrow. "Really? Where are you going?" Maya's voice trembled with both nerves and pride. "I got an offer at a tech company." The words felt surreal as they left her mouth, but they were real. For the first time, she wasn't just dreaming, she was stepping into her dream. When the week ended, Maya folded her apron neatly and placed it on the counter. She looked around the diner one last time, the booths where she had spent countless hours, the counter where she had poured endless cups of coffee, the kitchen where she had hurried through orders. This place had shaped her, taught her patience, discipline, and resilience. But it was no longer her final destination. Ethan picked her up on her first official day at the company. Maya wore a simple but professional outfit, her hair tied neatly, her heart racing. Walking into the glass building this time felt different. She wasn't a visitor. She was part of it. Her first weeks were full of challenges. She had to adjust to working with experienced engineers who had degrees from top universities. Some looked at her with curiosity, others with doubt. She heard whispers sometimes, "Isn't she the waitress he brought in?" But Maya stayed focused. She listened, learned quickly, and when problems arose, she quietly solved them with the same determination she had shown at the diner. Ethan gave her space to grow but always reminded her of his faith in her. And slowly, her colleagues began to see what he saw. She wasn't just a waitress given a chance out of pity. She was a sharp thinker, a fast learner, and a problem solver who could hold her own in the toughest situations. One afternoon, during a team meeting, Maya presented a small feature she had been working on. Her voice trembled at first, but as she explained the logic, her confidence grew. The team listened, asked questions, and nodded in approval. For the first time, she felt like she belonged in that room. Outside of work, her bond with Lily grew stronger. The little girl would sit beside her while she worked, pretending to type on a toy laptop, giggling when Maya explained code in simple words. It was as if Lily believed Maya could do anything, and that belief became a source of strength. Months passed, and the project that once seemed on the edge of collapse turned into a major success. Investors praised it, the market welcomed it, and Ethan's company reached new heights. At the celebration event, Ethan stood on stage, thanking his team. Then, to Maya's shock, he mentioned her by name. This project would not have succeeded without the fresh perspective and brilliance of someone who many underestimated, he said proudly. Maya showed us that talent can come from anywhere, even a diner late at night. She is proof that determination and passion matter more than titles or appearances. The room erupted in applause, and Maya felt her eyes sting with tears. She had always wanted to be seen, to be recognized, and now, in front of hundreds of people, she was. That night, when the event ended, Ethan approached her quietly. "You know, when I first walked into that diner, I was looking for coffee and a quiet place to work. I never expected to find someone who would change everything for me and my daughter." Maya smiled, her heart full. "And I never expected a customer with a broken code would open the door to my future." They laughed softly, and Lily ran between them, holding both their hands. As they stepped outside, the city lights shining above them, Maya knew her life had truly changed. She was no longer the girl who only dreamed. She was living it. The unexpected had happened not in the way she once imagined, but in a way that was even more powerful. She had found her place, her purpose, and a family that believed in her. And as she looked ahead, she knew this was only the beginning of a new chapter.